Right, one of the rules I think everybody should adhere to is having some sort of LCC, obviously. And LCC is a key part in controlling clients. It's something which not many people do. You let them know that if we don't do a proper diagnosis, I don't operate, right? I don't design. It would be malpractice. It would be unprofessional of me to go into design without doing a proper research. Right, the other one is, and I've said this a few times, but when you buy me, you buy my process. Or when you hire me, you choose. When you choose me, you're choosing my process. Here is my process. Boom. This is what we're going to be doing. If you have an issue with hiring me and doing this process, please don't hire me. If my process is going to be an issue, but this is what we do. And one of the key things we do is we do an LCC. Okay. If you won't follow my process, now what hope do I have later? We start properly or not at all. Okay, pre-design research is the most important step. The process is best for them and you. So you got to have a process which you know is a great process. It works for you, it benefits them. If they won't drink from your well, it's good to know that early, no problem. We find someone who will. The funny thing is, the more control you have during the sales process, the more they'll respect you. And I think the more likely you are to win the project, right? If you're an airy-fairy pleaser, a humble servant, then you'll get walked over right from the start. And at the end of the day, with an architect, particularly one who's going to project manage the thing, they want someone who is a strong hand. They want someone to plug their umbilical cord into. What they don't want is a pushover, because if they can push you over, then the contractor can push you over and everybody else can push you over, right? Being a pleaser just makes you look weak, right? In the sales process, you've got to be strong because you're doing a demonstration. This is what I'm like in a project too. I have my standards, I have my ways of doing it. This is the way we're going to do it because this is the way we get the best result. Okay, which you've got to include the word no in your toolkit. If you don't have the word no in your toolkit, if you're a yes to everybody person, you look weak. You end up with shitty projects. You end up with shitty clients. You end up with badly behaved clients who could actually be well-behaved clients if they were given some boundaries. But if you're not the person to set the boundaries for them, and they run around with no boundaries early on, then what do you think happens during a project? Okay, so I want to take you through just, I guess, a bit of a mindset thing around how to take people from sort of nothing through the sales process. Okay, you can see there's 4 steps like baseball. You got to get them onto first gear, you got to get them onto second gear, you got to get them onto third gear, and you got to get them onto 4th gear. So I'm going to take you through a quick tour of the LCC method. Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with the LCC. This is the new training called the LCC method, which is more of a sales process. It's much more controlling over the clients than just, do you want this LCC or not? Okay, so first what we have to do, you notice here, back here, is the basic qualifying questions. We need to qualify them to see if we want to invest any time or effort into them, right? So qualify them. We are checking them out. And to do that, we need a set of questions, right? We need to uncover and discover if we want them, okay? Because we need to cull quickly. It seems to me, having spoken to architects sort of most days for the last 7 years, that probably only about 40% of the people you have conversations to about projects are worth actually getting involved with, right? It's not a problem, but you need to know that, maybe 50 to 60% of the people who want to talk to you about a project aren't worth investing time and effort in, because the project will either never go anywhere or you don't want it, right? So you need to ask questions to know who's worth qualifying, who's in and who's out according to your criteria. Now you got to know what your criteria is. Now these are some. I'm going to give you some questions to ask to qualify people quickly. Okay, because you want to discover, really in the first 5 minutes of a conversation, you want to discover who's worth talking to. Now, I'm not saying these are the only questions, but these are the standard questions in any sales situation, no matter what you're selling, including design services. But I've added one extra question. Okay, we need to find the real projects. So, base number one. Okay, do you want to invest time with them, right? The client needs to be able to get at least to base number one for us to continue. Right, these are the general qualifying categories for anyone when you're selling anything. Their time frame needs to be right. So is this a this year project, or is it a next year project, or is it a maybe project? Right, money. Do they have the budget? Do they have the authority to make decisions, and do they have the need? Okay, so let me go through some questions quickly. You can go through these later in the recording, but I won't spend too much time on these. Right, these are some of the scripts or questions you could ask. Is this a now project or a later project? Get a time frame on when they want this project complete by. When do you want it finished by? Oh, well, we haven't got a date for finishing. Okay, great, good to know that. Right, or if it's April next year, you want to know that too. So how organized are they in their timeframes? Money. Do you have funding, or are you looking to get a budget to get, are you looking for me to give you a steer and an idea so that you can get budget for funding? Another one is, how much money do you have for this project? Will you be borrowing money for this project? What's your budget? What is the number we have to stay under? Is there a number we have to stay under? Is another way of getting the budget, right? You have to ask the budget question, right? You may not like asking questions around money. Tough luck. You're in construction. You're an architect. It's if they don't know, then it's great. I mean, you need to get this in early. The earlier it is, the less money is particularly personal to them. Right, who are the decision makers who can move ahead with this project? Right, so apart from you, who else is involved in the decision-making process? You need to find out if it's someone else. I just got a message from someone yesterday saying he was doing got involved in a project for a club, a sports club. It was a cricket club in Bath in England. And he'd been dealing with the CEO of the club, put in a whole lot of work, At the 11th hour, of course, along comes the chairman of the board of the cricket club, who suddenly is now involved and has an architect or a contractor that he wants to use. Obviously a friend. All right, now this guy's come out of nowhere. The CEO has come out of nowhere. If he had asked the question, who are the decision makers who can move ahead with this project, the CEO might have said, well, it has to go for board approval. Okay, who are the key players on the board? Well, the CEO is very active. Okay, I'll need to meet him or her as well. Right, because if I'm going to do my LCC, if I'm going to collect my needs and all that type of stuff, I need to interview all the key players. Because you need to meet all the key players. If you haven't met the key players and someone comes along at the end and you haven't met them and you haven't qualified them, you haven't got the information you need from them, then you can be cut out of the loop. Right, what's driving the project? What's the driving motivation for this project? Why do you want it? Right, you need to know. These 4 areas are questions you need to know before you know whether it's a decent project or not. Right, is there a driving need for this project or not? If there isn't, I mean, projects generally, no one spends hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars unless there's a driving need. If they can't answer the driving need, maybe there isn't one. Maybe someone is just going out collecting information. Right, base number 2, right? So those are the basic qualifying questions, right? Those are the basic qualifying questions that you would apply in any industry. Time, money, need, authority. Okay, I believe there's another one for architecture, and it's process. Will the client agree to your overall process? Because I'm interested in client control. I'm interested in client control. Right, so I want to see, yes, they've answered the questions to get on basic first base. I want to have a look at second base. Okay, now this is where you show them your process. Here is the process that I go through on all my projects, because this is the process that delivers projects on time and on budget, right? We do this process this way, which includes an LCC. You wouldn't call it an LCC, you'd include your design diagnosis or project feasibility or needs and options review, whatever you're going to call it, but that would be part of the process that you would show them, and you would show them and you would say, right, does this make sense? This is how we're going to do it. Right now, I would be having not just a construction process agreement, I would have a process showing them, here's how we're going to investigate to find out if we are a good fit. And that kind of is the LCC. These are the steps to go through. These are all the steps, right? Do you have any issue with this process? If you do, let me know. No, looks fine. Great. They're on second base. Excellent. They're now on, they've got through the qualifying questions. They've agreed to my process, including the fact that if you go ahead with me, there's going to be an LCC, right? Base number 3, does the client understand their risks and are they aware of their information gaps? This is where you ask, you're now they need to be aware of their risks, because if they're not aware of their risks, then they won't feel they need an LCC. And an LCC is a key controlling tool that I want you to use, because once you've got the LCC, you've usually got the project. You'll usually end up with the project. It's yours to lose. Okay. So there's a series of questions. There's more stuff I want to go through, so I'm not going to stick on these in detail, but you're asking a whole lot of strip naked questions, I like to call them. What's happening here? How clear are you on what you want? What are the consequences of not getting this project completed? What are the other risks you're aware of? Do you have a site or building already? Are the drawings of the existing building site available? I'm looking for holes. How clear are you on what you need to meet zoning, building code, and permitting requirements? Right? Have you engaged a civil engineer for the project? If so, who? Have you got any, have you or your team had any conversations with zoning or design review boards? Right? Any question that will have them go, no, didn't know I had to, no, right? Strip naked, I'm looking for holes, right? Because don't worry, I can go away and do the research for you, right? So the whole point of that phase 3 is to kind of scare them a little bit and get them on the back foot, which justifies the diagnosis, okay, which is the LCC, right? Now, if they get all the way around the bases, you take them on. But you can see here, by answering the qualifying questions, so they've got money, they can make decisions, they have a time frame and they have a need, great. They'll agree to your overall process, right? They'll agree to that up front, great. That they're now aware of their risks and they're a little bit nervous, that's great. They're on base 3. And now, yep, great, we'll do an LCC. It looks like we need to. I didn't realize we had so many holes and things we needed to do before we got to design. Yeah, everyone wants to jump to design quickly, but you need to build your design on solid foundations. Great. Good control, right? If they answer if they answer qualify to be a client, then they receive your LCC. Fantastic. You've done a great job of controlling them.